What if I told you the story of chemistry, the one you learned in school, was missing its first and maybe most important chapter? Well, today we're going to uncover that hidden history. We're talking about chemistry's forgotten foundations. Seriously, take a second. When you think start of modern chemistry, who pops into your head? What names? What experiments? Got it? Okay, hold on to that thought because we're about to blow that picture wide open. I mean, it's easy to forget, but the world of chemicals is literally all around us. It's in the medicine we take, the plastics we can't live without, even the soap we use. The story of chemistry is the story of our modern world. But to really get it, to appreciate all this stuff, we have to go way back, to a time and a place that, well, usually gets skipped in the textbooks. All right, so let's do it. Let's peel back those pages of history. We're jumping back, way back, more than 1,000 years, to a time when science and philosophy were basically one and the same. This is where the real groundwork was laid for, well, pretty much everything we know today. Okay, so where are we going? We're diving into what's known as the Muslim Golden Age, roughly between 600 and 1600 AD. And look, this wasn't just about art and poetry. It was an absolutely explosive era of intense, hands-on scientific discovery, the kind of work that would literally change the course of history. So what was driving all this? What was the big motivation? You know, this wasn't just a bunch of people messing around in a lab. These early chemists, or alchemists as they were known, they were on a serious quest. They were driven by these three massive, world-changing ambitions.
Okay, so here is their to-do list. First, and this one still hits home, they wanted to figure out how to prolong human life. Second, this is the one everybody knows. They wanted to turn cheap metals like lead into gold. And third, and this is super interesting, they were looking for actual physical proof for their philosophical and spiritual beliefs.
And it was these huge ambitions that actually forced them to develop real, practical science. So, let's meet the pioneers, the architects. We took these huge, kind of mystical ideas and turned them into the foundation of the modern lab. So, here's our lineup, our key players. We're kicking things off in the 8th century with Jabir Ibn Hayan. From there, we'll follow this incredible chain of knowledge to Al-Razi, then Al-Biruni, and finally Ibn Sina. It's amazing. In just a couple of hundred years, these four thinkers built a foundation that modern science is still standing on. All right, first up, Jabir Ibn Hayan. This guy is often called the father of chemistry, and for good reason. He wasn't just thinking about stuff, he was building stuff. He set up the very first well-equipped laboratory, and this is huge. He invented core techniques like distillation, sublimation, and filtration. I mean, this is literally the stuff you learn on day one of Chem 101. And his lab wasn't just for show. The things he made are still incredibly important. He was the first person to prepare things like nitric acid and hydrochloric acid, super powerful chemicals. He even made compounds like white lead. Just think about that for a second. These aren't some obscure, forgotten chemicals. They're industrial workhorses, and we can trace them all the way back to his lab, more than 1,200 years ago. That's just wild. Okay, so after Jabir, the torch was passed to Muhammad Al-Razi. This guy was a brilliant doctor and chemist. He was the one who first figured out how to make alcohol using fermentation. Plus, he wrote everything down in a book called Al-Asrar, which basically became the chemistry textbook for hundreds of years. And you can't overstate how big a deal this was. Before Al-Razi, chemistry was, well, it was a mess. It was chaos. By creating a logical system, splitting things up based on where they came from, like living versus non-living, he started to bring order to that chaos. He was turning a mystical art into a real systematic science. Next up is Al-Biruni, and his big thing was precision. See, while other people were just describing what stuff looked like, he was measuring it. He painstakingly figured out the exact densities of all sorts of different substances. This was a giant leap. He was turning chemistry into a science of numbers, not just, hey, look at this weird rock. And our final pioneer is Ibn Sina, a guy who was basically brilliant at everything. But his biggest mark on chemistry wasn't a new discovery in a beaker. It was a whole new way of thinking. He brought some serious logic and skepticism to the table, and he started questioning the very ideas that had been driving alchemy for centuries. I mean, think about how revolutionary this was. For centuries, the whole turning lead into gold thing was the main goal. It's what got alchemists their funding. And here comes Ibn Sina saying, nope, can't be done. He was making a really bold statement. Science has to be about evidence and logic,
not just wishful thinking. He was basically drawing a line in the sand, separating magic from real science. So why does any of this matter to us right now? Well, it matters a lot more than you might think. The legacy of these guys isn't just collecting dust in some old history book. No way. It's alive and kicking in every single chemistry lab on the planet today. And the line from them to us is crystal clear. Filtration? That process invented over a millennium ago? Yep, still a core lab technique. Distillation? It's essential for purifying everything from the water we drink to the fuel for our cars. And fermentation? It's not just for beer anymore. We use it to make life-saving medicines, all kinds of food, even biofuels. That chain from the past to the present, it has never been broken. When you add it all up, their legacy is just staggering. They didn't just sit around and theorize. They built the actual toolkit for chemistry, both the physical tools and the mental ones. They discovered new elements, they invented instruments like funnels and crucibles that we still use, and they perfected the processes that make modern chemistry even possible. So, going on this journey really shows you, doesn't it? The real history of science is so much richer, so much more global than we usually give it credit for, and it leaves you with a pretty cool question to think about. What other forgotten stories, what other hidden foundations of our world are just waiting out there to be rediscovered?